Hello everyone, Edain here, and welcome back to the Edain mod, where we'll be over-explaining Rohan, the second of the two good factions that have existed since the beginning of Edain 4.0, and Rohan is as fun as you'd think it is. It is very cavalry-centric, as we can see here, and this isn't even all of it. This isn't even all of it. I've actually saved some of it behind for a later showing. Anyway, let's start by going into over-explained with what we've always been talking about. Mechanics. Rohan has a lot of cavalry, but that's not even really a mechanic. That's just a feature of theirs. Their main mechanic, however, are the peasants. Peasants come in two different forms. In their Rohan peasant form, where they have a bunch of different melee weapons that do slash damage, and obviously the farmhands that have spears. And you can see here we've got two different versions of the exact same units. One is drafted, one is not drafted. You see the drafted units are carrying pitchforks, scythes, just sticks, even bill hooks. And then we've got the peasants here that have got more uniformed armor, got shields on the backs, wielding shields. And then we've got the basic peasants. Some have got axes, some have got maces, some have got sickles. Not a lot of uniformity again. Some have got a hammer. And then on our drafted peasants we have swords and shields. Obviously drafted peasants are much stronger than ordinary peasants. You can see the stat difference here. 159 health against 223 health. 223 health versus 159 health. And they also just do more damage as well because of the drafted ability. Also, peasants have the ability to defend your homes, which if they're near one of the buildings that they can be recruited from, they will get more stats just from being nearby. Mostly movement speed, damage, and armor. So all of the big things for 30 seconds. And then, yeah, and that applies to the flour mill and the farm. The other main mechanic of Rohan is Edain himself. The corrupted king at the moment, because we want to talk about all the things that he can do before he becomes the pure king again, the glorious king, through the middle tier power. And out of respect for this feature, I'm going to go over his corrupted form now. So currently he cannot attack anything. He's got no sword. He instead has a little worm slithering at the back of his neck, and who is constantly corrupting him, making him weaker so Saruman can influence him. His abilities are as follows. Edain of Rohan may be weak, but he still inspires his people. They gain attack damage but lose armor and less resistant to fear. Grima Wormtongue follows Edain on his way and whispers false words into his ear. Edain the Corrupted can't attack or gain experience, but can use all his abilities from the start. Now that actually confirms two things. One, from the previous over-explain, we were talking about how Edain can't get experience. Well, how things can't get experience from Denethor's ability. I used the whispered one, the whispering one, the god mode, the hidden one on Edain, and it turned him to level 5. So the experience gain negates the effects of can't gain experience. That's the only way I've been able to give Edain experience ever in this form. He then gets banishment to exile. He can banish any of the following heroes: Theodred, Eomer, Harmer, Gamling, or Merry, but not Eowyn. It's important to know Eowyn cannot be banished.
Please eat.
Yep, can't be banished. Everyone else can be banished. And when they get the banished ability, or get the banished trait, they try to earn their favour back by gaining damage and recharge their abilities faster. But if they die, they cannot be revived until Edain is freed from Grima's spell. So obviously, on a hero like Theodred or Eomer, who have some pretty good level 1 abilities, giving them more damage and the ability to get them back faster is great. And again, this is straight from level 1. Ignore the fact that he's level 5. He gets all of these at level 1. Then gets cruel taxes. Any external farm production gives more resources for 2 minutes, but has less armor for the duration. Quite simple, really good. Can't really argue with the result there. Then we have the traitors of Rohan. Turn any peasants in the area into traitors. And these traitors are basically just slightly stronger drafted peasants, but have a time limit. They'll eventually just desert from the battlefield. And then finally, retreat! Edain orders his troops to retreat for 30 seconds. units around the king are invincible and get a speed boost but can't fight back. These powers are actually enhanced if you get the ring with Theoden while Grima is on the board. Instead of Theoden being still in control to some degree, Grima takes full control. He is now the character on the portrait. His abilities become pretty much twice as good in most regards. Retreat instead now is map-wide. The cruel taxes is insane. Banishment is just more nastiness on top of nastiness. The traitors are nasty, as they already are, but just become even more deadly. So in the early game, sure, do it. But after a time, get rid of Grima. You don't want him around anymore. And in fact, let's do that right now. I don't want Grima around here. Let's make our king glorious again. As you can see, he is now in a pure state. Didn't crash the game, thankfully. And we'll talk about his abilities as we get into the flow of the game. So those are the main mechanics. The peasants and Theoden himself. Once those things are understood and learnt, you can play Rohan really, really well. They're very fun. But let's actually go over the strengths and weaknesses of Rohan. The main strength is, well, firstly, that peasants can be made to be as durable, if not more durable, than ordinary Gondor soldiers, just from being near a farm. It's insane the levels they will go to protect their homeland. It's really good. And also is their cavalry. All of their cavalry are amazing, in one way or another. Obviously, the Rohan archers aren't going to be as good in a charge as, say, our Rohan lancers, and his axemen may not be as good at the charge as our Rohan lancers because they're more focused on dealing damage to buildings. In fact, that's even their thing is they do more damage, lose and gain more armor, but cannot trample in their line formation. If you ever want to just go for, again, damaging buildings because they're wielding axes, not lancers like our lancers. And also we've got even more cavalry from our outpost, which can recruit more heroes that can get more cavalry or infantry, which is our only way of getting elite infantry. Which means before the exile camp / king's camp existed, Rohan didn't have any elite actual infantry other than spear throwers technically, but I don't class them as elite. They're But yeah, that was actually Rohan's biggest weakness back before the exile camp existed, which I think was around 4.3, 4.4 when the exile camp was brought in, and yeah, that was their biggest weakness before then. But now, I would say it is still a weakness that you need to have an outpost to get your elite troops in melee. But other than that, I'd say one weakness is you just not got a lot of melee. Look, I mean, we've got peasants as our infantry. And look at all our ranged units. We have pitch throwers, yeoman archers, and spear throwers. 3 different damage types. Even Gondor only had 3 ranged units that all did the same thing, in that they did pierce damage. These are 3 different damage types, different ranges, different abilities, different purposes on the battlefield. And one is even capable of killing cavalry on the if they charge them, which is a nice little add-on for them. But yeah, strengths and weaknesses for Rohan is a lot more cut and dry than it was for some factions in the past, where it's just their units are good. Don't get me wrong, these units are good, but there's just not a lot of them. You got to work with these units that take a long. These units take longer to recruit than any other units, just by base recruitment time of 60 seconds, I think, for each unit. And obviously, you need the draft to make them good. They're on both your tier 1 powers. But one of them requires it to all just be on one building, so you'll have to have very slow recruitment speed to begin with, which will eventually ramp up over as time goes on. Or you can only use a quick attack command to give your units draft. And then, I see here, the attack command did not even draft the entire peasant unit. It only drafted the peasants that were in the radius for some reason. I think that might be a bug. Because it affected all of these, it didn't affect all of these. But, next up, we go to the unit roster, as we've already kind of talked about the peasants here. We've got our farmhands and our basic peasants. By the way, you can also draft a unit of peasants by giving them banner carriers, which is, again, not really something you want to be getting because you have to be getting a workshop, spend 600, and then have to spend 150 on a, or 200 even, on a upgrade. It might have been 190. Is it always 190? Oh, right, no. Farms decrease the cost of... It doesn't say because doesn't say on there, but if you have enough flour mills, you get discounts on your banner carriers. I don't remember where it's from. I'm not going to be able to find it. Oh no, it's from draft itself. Yeah, every building with draft reduces the cost of banner carriers. So if we get the draft on here as well, that should now make banner carriers even cheaper. If I didn't have it everywhere. Yeah, and banner carriers are now 180 for every unit, thanks to the draft. Yeah, peasant farmhands and peasants don't have any special abilities other than, as I said, if they're near a farm, flour mill, or stud farm. So a resource building, your base resource buildings, give these peasants movement speed, attack, and armor bonuses for a short time while they're just in the radius. Really good, very handy. These are slash damage, these are specialist damage. You know what to do with them by now. I'm hoping by all the over-explains I've done. Now we come to the ranged units. We have our yeoman archers who have the ability to give them a volley. It's not the actual volley ability where you target a small area and they just pew pew in that area. It's not that bad. It's actually really good. Where you lose some movement speed for a time, but deal extra damage and have bonus range. Let me actually get our heroic units before I forget. Let me just get them on the field quickly while I'm talking about these. Next up we have are the pitch throwers. They don't have a upgrade to their ranged attack because they already do massive range damage with their siege pitchers, which do AoE damage. Again, noting back what I said about Gondor, clumping up can be good, but not against things that do AoE damage like these pitch throwers. They have a very small attack range, but that actually works in their favour if you're building my favourite early game comp for Rohan, the peasant clump. You just get a bunch of farms and flour mills, get as many peasants as possible, get both your tier 1 powers, just keep spamming peasants, get them all drafted in one instance, get an archery range or a Feydred tower, get Feydred leveled up enough to get pitch throwers from the tower, and then just keep throwing keep spamming pitch throwers. Their damage is insane, and because it's siege damage, this is one of the few ranged units at the beginning do massive damage to buildings. Really good. Then we have our technically elite spear throwing ranged units, the yeoman spear throwers. Their ability is the mighty spears. They toss their spears with great strength, knocking enemies to the ground. Pretty good. It is a pretty good thing. And also their charge can kill Rivendell cavalry in the charge, which is pretty good. Very noteworthy. Although they do also die in the charge because they only have 473 health at level 1 with researched heavy armor. And now we come to the fun part. No, not quite yet. We've got to go over this unit first. Our strange little friend here, the hay cart. You can... they're strong with unprotected buildings because what they do is... Let me actually just make a building... reverse convert a farm quickly. So, the hay carts... Their whole job is to just burn themselves. So let's do a reverse convert so I can actually show you what this means. That building is no longer ours. And these hay carts want to burn that building. There's 2 hay carts here. They both cost, by the way, 200 each, so more than a basic peasant unit. You send them to attack a building, they'll drop their payload, and they'll set themselves on fire. And yeah, they do damage. If you can get even one off, it is pretty much a guaranteed destruction on a building. But, you know, they're slow. Quite easy to notice because you don't have builders in the game anymore. But for some reason, we also count as having our guys nearby, so we can just take that building if I was fast enough, which I was not. Oh well. So that's a nice thing to know about them. You can build them. You can hope they work. But they're probably going to work against settlements, and you're a cavalry faction. You don't really need them. That ring can just stay there. I don't need that. Right. Now, and probably won't, because the only thing Theoden really gets is some choice abilities by weakening himself. Now we come to our cavalry, starting with the Rohirrim Lancers. Our basic cavalry, we've had them since BFME 1. They have the wedge formation, are slowed less, but have less armor. It usually does more damage, less armor. They've changed it, thankfully, to make it more trample focused. This is your trample cavalry. You trample, you trample, you trample some more. You may take more damage on the trample, but most units don't really do much revenge damage back to you, so we'll be fine. Next up, as the aforementioned, well, already mentioned Rohirrim Axe Fighters. These guys prefer to deal damage to buildings, and can also prevent themselves from taking revenge damage with the line formation. Give them more damage and armor at the same time. So if you're just wanting to trample over and over again, get these lancers. If you want to do damage buildings quickly or stay in prolonged combat like with Gondor knights, you can get the Rohirrim axe fighters. Next up are the Rohirrim archers. This is one of the only ranged cavalry units in the game, and it is also the worst out of all three of them, because their thing is they deal damage to things with heavy armor, and you can technically use them to hit and run against pikemen, but you can't trample with them because their trample is atrocious. They have very little health, so their trample can kill them against basic Gondor soldiers. We've seen this. This is them with heavy armor, by the way. So without heavy armor, they're even more likely to die in a charge. Only get these if you really, really want them. I personally detest them, and I have my fingers up saying no, don't get them. Not worth it. And next up, I'm going to go over the heroic unit first, actually. And there's one unit that I'm going to go over, but we'll only go over it in the powers section, because it's part of the military camp. And I remember, I will go over them this time. I will not forget like I did last time. Let's talk about the Royal Guards of Rohan. Very similar to the Knights of Dol Amroth, as I mentioned in the previous video. Their Dauntless Advance gives them armor, increased, even more armor against pikemen, and just makes it so they just don't take as much damage. So it's pretty much an exact opposite of what the Knights of Dol Amroth have, where they just get more trample damage and are faster trampling, and less likely to slow down. Then they have For Death and Glory. That's the same ability as, or similar ability to Knights of Dol Amroth. They slow less when trampling, move faster, but have less armor. So it's a give and take, unlike with Dol Amroth, which was all just give, or all take even. And in the Guardians of Rohan, the Royal Guard protect nearby allied heroes, granting them even more armor on top of their already boundless power. So this is a more specialized elite heroic unit, one that I personally do not use a lot of, because one, they're expensive. You know, you can make them cheaper though through a power, but still not really that good. Two, your basic cavalry honestly can just perform better because there's more entities, more trample, less command point cost with basic cavalry. If we look at here, only 90 command points for our basic cavalry compared to the 120 of archers and the Royal Guard. But also, their abilities are also just more simple. Just put them in a formation, and now they just do things better in a certain way. Where it's here, you have to activate the ability, and then it's used for a while. You can't get it back, you can't use it again, and you can't turn it off for a second. But honestly, this one doesn't have any adverse effects. This one does with the reduced armor, and then this one's as good. So use them if you want to. I personally don't touch them unless I'm really rolling in the money, because these other cavalry are way cheaper. Look at that. Look at that cost difference. 4 units of these you can get before paying for one of these. It is noticeable. The cost is noticeable. But again, some factions some people might want to go with that. Now we come to our outpost troops. The King's Camp or the Exile Camp has 3 units they can summon, called the Royal Vanguards or the Rohan Exiles. Obviously, Exiles are from the Exile Camp. They cost command points, but can be recruited really quickly. They're exactly the same as your basic Rohirrim. If we go over the Rohirrim here, we can see exactly the same stats, exactly the same ability with the wedge formation. Then we come to the Royal Vanguard. They're, again, exactly the same in stats and ability, but they are free command points. They don't cost any command points. You spend 1,000 resources to get this into the King's Camp, and that's all you need to then have 3 cavalry units that cost no command points. And you can always just keep coming back and make them again, because they don't take long to recruit. But also from this camp, you get the Rohan Captains, which come in 4 different forms. The base captain, which you can recruit an infinite amount of, but also the 3 Royal Guards that are named captains, Erkenbrand, Elfhelm, and Grimbold. And all of these captains have something in common. One, they start as a single entity. 2, they can mount and dismount, as you can see here. And 3, they have the choice of becoming a soldier unit of Meduseld, a warden of Meduseld, or a knight of Meduseld. Now, the basic captains have their own special abilities and have the ability captain of Rohan. The captain leads the men into battle and replenishes fallen troops. It acts as a banner carrier, basically, in all of those regards. You have to buy upgrades, of course, the shields, heavy armor, and forged blades, but they also have a different ability depending on where they are. So swordsmen have the line breakers, do bonus damage against pikemen. It basically gives them a forged blades ability on top of being able to also purchase forged blades. Really good. Really good at just taking out any pikeman that you want your cavalry to not have to charge into. The Royal Wardens have the porcupine formations. They're probably the worst out of all of them because the shield from isn't as well organised in a smaller entity unit. But it's still a cool unit. It's a elite pikeman. Not sure if you want an elite pikeman as a cavalry faction, but there you go. You can get one. And then the Knights of Meduseld get the ability Meduseld's Bravest. They gain armor against all melee units except pikemen for 30 seconds. So use that before the charge to take less revenge damage from non-pikemen. And also just take less damage while you're in a conflict for longer. Similar to the ability of the Axeman. But it's pure armor and not... it's pure armor for a duration, but not temporary and prevents charging. Then we have Elfhelm, Grimbold, and Erkenbrand, which I'm going to give them all the knight units. However, one of them has a different ability depending upon which type of unit you have. Elfhelm can replenish one lost member from every nearby allied battalion near him. Elfhelm can make his units move faster and have more armor, which is definitely better when you're a cavalry unit. Erkenbrand, however, has the ability Summon of Meduseld, which can depend upon whether he's on a horse, is a part of the unit of wardens, or a unit of soldiers. Obviously, the unit he makes is dependent upon what he is a part of. So, here he makes a unit of knights. Make a unit of soldiers or wardens if you want the soldiers or wardens in his units. But obviously, I prefer the knights because, you know, we're playing Rohan. We want more cavalry. Why wouldn't we want more cavalry? They're great. Obviously, they're temporary, but, you know. But yeah, also, we get the abilities here. Nearby allies are fearless for anyone nearby our 3 royal captains of Rohan. And lastly, before we finish off our unit roster, are the battering ram. Very simple, very basic, same as most other factions. No special abilities like with Gondor. It's just 6 men holding a ram with a horse on the end. It's kind of cool. And then we have the Onager, which has nothing special about it at all as well. It's a catapult that has no fire, a trebuchet even that has no firestones. A Mordor catapult that doesn't have the flaming heads or even flaming flaming shots or skull shots. It is just a basic little catapult, basically. Cute little thing, meant to be basic and rustic because, you know, you're a basic and rustic faction. And that is all of our units talked about. Let's now talk about all of our heroes. Meriadoc Brandybuck. If you've seen the previous video with Pippin, I'm just going to basically go over this very quickly. You have a stone you can choose to throw, or have a sword to swing with. You can hide yourself quickly with an elven cloak. You can reveal an area around you, and also gain movement speed. For a small time, this used to be a thing that was unique to Pippin having vision, or Merry having bonus speed. It's now a mix of both, put on both of them. Eagerness of the Fall. Then we have the Squire of Rohan. Get yourself some armor and level up immediately to level 5, and get 1,000 more health. And same with Pippin. That 1,000 health does also multiply a little bit more with every level after level 5. Then you have Dagger of the Noldor, which we've already talked about. You fling yourself onto a target. Everything in between you and that target takes damage. If it's from a behind shot, then they take even more damage. Really good hero for a scout. Doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. But a cool little thing is, he can ride along with some of your cavalry heroes. With Theodred, Eowyn, and I think Eomer and Gamling. But I'm not going to show over all of them. You can see here, he can clearly just mount with Eowyn. That's the main one. You can have him mount with Eowyn. I don't know what the point of that is, other than he's just now stuck with Eowyn until you dismount with her. But yeah, that's just a cool thing you can do. Next up on the list is Gamling, who is a unique hero when he's mounted. He actually has a bow. he shoots a bow instead of just riding down the rest of his faction. His first ability, to the armory, permanently summons a unit of level 2 peasants to the field. If you can't summon those peasants, you can't. But other nearby peasants also gain temporary damage and armor if they're near those peasants, when they're summoned in that area. So it's a horn effect on top of a summon effect, which is really cool. Next up is Gambling's Horn, same as the Horn of Gondor, is that it makes enemy foes surrounding feel terror, but not the same as the Horn of Gondor, that doesn't give all heroes bonus movement speed. Then we have the reinforcements. Every ally unit on the map regains a fallen member. So same as the captain's ability over time, but that's just a use and it's done. Rapid deployment order, this is how you get your peasants fast. Throw that out and look at that speed. About as fast as an Entmoot. Pretty cool. Pretty good. Very, very useful when you need to get more peasants out. So Gambling is the de facto peasant hero. He helps peasants become better versions of themselves, basically. Next up on the list is Hammer. The guy that, if you remember, died pretty early on in the Two Towers movie to a Warg Rider. His abilities are actually a lot cooler than you would think. He can mount and dismount like every other Rohan hero, but he also has the ability Indefatigable. I think I spelled that right. Hammer is a source of unbending courage and honor. As long as Hammer is in combat, nearby allies regenerate health points slowly. So he is a walking, fighting well. It is so cool. If he's on his own, he's done for. But if he has an army by his back, if he can just stay in a fight, but not be in the front lines, there you go. You've just got a source of infinite healing. He then has Untamed Might. Hammer's Untamed Might cannot be overcome. He fights for the virtue of Rohan. For 30 seconds, he takes no damage from enemy attacks. However, I would be remiss to not note the fact that even though he does get resistance to all that damage, if he is on a horse and he charges into anything, he still takes the revenge damage. Revenge damage goes through the invulnerability. I do not know if that is the same thing that works with other heroes, if they are, like for creator heroes, for example, if they charge, will they take revenge damage? I do not know. But I do know for a fact that Untamed Might does not stop damage dealt from cavalry charging. Next up is Side by Side. Whoever he chooses to stand side by side with, he and that hero will always get a bonus. So if he's by Theoden, he cannot be slowed while trampling or knocked back. If Theodred, he gains more experience in combat. If it is Eomer, you have more damage. If it is Eowyn, he gains more damage against heroes in particular. Or Gambling, he gains extra vision range and movement speed. So the best one I'd say out of all of them is probably Theodred to get you to level 10, to then get the Guards of the Golden Hall. Your technically second heroic units, because it's the only way you can get them. The Royal Archers, they can switch between their swords and bows. You can actually get this unit as a permanent summon in the Edoras map. Whether it's the Horde map or the base Edoras map, you can only get this unit from the Golden Hall or through Hammer's power. But again, these are temporary summon, not a permanent summon like they are on that map. And again, Theodred is Hammer. For fuck's sake, I can't think of a name. Hammer is another hero that kind of is better off in the just in a melee blob, not as a cavalry hero, but as a infantry hero, because of his ability to just heal while in combat. Works better when you're not just trampling over everything and not actually staying in a prolonged fight, and also because of the Untamed Might ability not preventing trample damage. But here and there, you're just going to eventually you'll find a place for Hammer to work best. Next up is Theodred, who, similar to Denethor, has 3 different stances that are all unique. His shield stance, he gets his little horse shield, protects him against structure arrows. In return, he deals less damage. With his sword stance, no bony. You ever wanted to have a no bony? Just stay with sword stance. Then you have axe stance. Theodred arms himself with an axe. So that's his second weapon of choice. He, in return, does more damage to buildings, but loses armor. So if you want to do damage to buildings, this is the hero you want to go with. You then get the attack post. Which, to be fair, with how this has been changed, is probably more of an attack-focused thing than it is a defense-focused thing, which I used to always do this with. Is you summon an attack post, and from inside this tower, originally in Edain 4.0, I can't actually remember when this got changed. In 4.0, this used to be a tower that would shoot every now and again an archer, and then would be upgraded through the siege garrison to have some spear throwers on the top. Now it's been changed that you have these soldiers of Meduseld coming out from it that will attack anything, and they, you can see, don't wield swords like their King's Camp counterparts, like over here. These boys wield axes and hammers. These guys are meant to destroy buildings. You make this to destroy an enemy building. You can see here the attack team. The attack post sends troops which attack nearby enemy positions. The attack team deals great damage to buildings and can be controlled by attack order from the tower. So, by the way, you're going to say rally post attack. That's how you control them. And then when you use, as I said, mentioned before, the siege garrison ability now allows you to summon pitch throwers and hay carts. So this is basically a siege position. Instead of having like big siege units from your siege works, your workshop, you have big siege things from Theodred and your peasant farms and archery range. There's the archery range. The pitch throwers come from. Theodred then, at level 7, I think, no, level 6, repair work. Theodred orders the repair of all siege engines near a guard post. You target the building. Oh, Gollum got found. And my archers are not happy about it. All siege engines near the guard post will be permanently repaired and have double armor. Notice how that doesn't even say it has a time limit. It's just more armor for the repair work. You're just making them better. In fact, let me... No, I'm not going to test that. I don't think it makes has any visual difference. Finally, we have Defense of the Riddermark. Mobilize all forces to throw back the enemy. For 30 seconds, he and nearby siege engines gain damage, movement speed, and can't be knocked down. Obviously, the knockdown part only really makes sense for him, since nothing can knock down a siege engine other than just destroying it. So that is your siege hero. Very aggressively centered. The attack posts are still amazing. One of my favourite things about Rohan and why I always make Theodred. But Theodred can only be made from a assembly post, so do keep that in mind. You do need to build a settlement to get one of my favourite heroes. Next up is Eowyn, your hero slayer, who can mount and dismount. Has a disguise ability, which is also just a mount and dismount. Well, you can see here, she's already disguised in her Durnhelm helmet. You can see she's also... I can't actually tell if it is meant to be a Durnhelm thing, but she normally has her hair down when she's not in her Durnhelm state. She starts off with her smite ability, which is pretty much a one-hit mega damage attack. Powerful single target damage that will kill normally any single entity that's not a hero. Then she gets Shield Maiden at level 5. So she doesn't get a lot of abilities over time, but she does get a pretty good one in the form of Shield Maiden, which used to just be damage resistance. For a short time, she suffers 20% less damage in general and 70% less damage from heroes. So, you know, that again, there's more proof of her being a hero killer. And then finally, I Am No Man. Eowyn begins a duel with a target enemy hero. While the target enemy hero is nearby, Eowyn gains a massive damage boost, increased movement speed, and cannot be knocked back. Effect lasts for 60 seconds. I've got to take a drink, excuse me. My throat is killing me. Doing 2 Overexplained back to back is not a good idea for my voice box. But yeah, Eowyn, very simple, very effective hero slayer. Look at her base damage compared to Theodred. 349 at level 10, 537 at level 10. Granted, she has less health, but that's the whole point of Eowyn. She is meant to be that girl. She is the girl that just kills. And I wish we had a Shield Maiden unit, that like in Age of the Ring. But, you know, you have to give and take with some things. Eomer is next. Our Mass Slayer hero. He has a smite ability as well. But unlike with Eowyn, his is a piercing spear, which hits everything in its trajectory, and also just knocks back and does a little AoE upon hitting its targets. He also gets the leader of the Exiles. Thereby Cavalry gain more experience and earn resources for every killed enemy. Really good. Specified Cavalry, but you know, you're going to be using Cavalry with Eomer anyway. Then you can make the Memorial. Driving to the ground the skull of a slain foe. All nearby foes are disturbed by it and lose armor. So throw Eomer into the front first. Have him throw down this memorial and then have your other units join him afterwards. This memorial does not have a timer, by the way. It just stays there. And also will reveal hidden units. Next up we have the Ride of the Exiled, which has a nice new design to it. I don't know how long it's been like that for. But from Eomer you summon a lot of cavalry. I thought that was I think that was like 20 Rohirrim, 24 Rohirrim just charging at you. Oh, that damage is good though. You got to believe it. Level 10, that is an AoE damage to be feared. But again, a very simple hero, not needing a lot to explain about him. He can be recruited from the exile camp if you have the exile camp to start with, because you can't actually recruit him from the stables until Theoden is cured from Grima's influence, because you know he was the one that got exiled.
Listen to me.
In the movies, let me make that clear. In the movies, he got exiled,
Tonight is for you.
and it was not allowed back in Meduseld. But in the books, I didn't actually go down that way. He wasn't the one that appeared at the very end of the Siege of Helm's Deep. He was actually in the Siege of Helm's Deep from the very beginning in the books. And finally, we have our King Theoden Ednu. He can ride, mount, and dismount, and he has the ability Glorious King. All ally hero units gain damage and armor equal to the amount of what the heroics actually normally gives, I think. At level 3, nearby allies are also fear resistant. At level 5, the bonus is increased to 25% damage and armor and also affects Theoden. At level 7, heroes are now affected. At level 10, the reign of the leadership is doubled. So, as we can see, let's just move Theoden away from our units here. Let's see when that leadership aura leaves their bodies. You can see it, right? Let's step him in a little bit closer. That is a long-ass range of a leadership. That is insane range. That is if I put him here, the entire range of the screen, almost. That is really good. Put him here. That should now affect these peasants too, and affect these peasants too. Really good. Next up is Hour of Glory. Ally units in the target area can triple their normal experience for a short time. You know, very nice looking portrait here of Theoden riding to war. You can then summon the Herald of the King. Summons a Royal Herald. In Theoden's stead, you can use this Herald to give the leadership effect of Theoden. They do not stack, however, let that be known. They do not stack, but they do both have the effect. And the hero, the Herald even, will be mounted or dismounted depending on if Theoden is mounted or dismounted. So the same as Imrahil, in that you want him mounted to have this mounted, but if you don't want him mounted, you can put him on foot and then have him do that. And then finally, Glorious Charge. We all know it, we all love it. Look at that radius. That is a map-wide radius. It affects all heroes, as you can see, but all mounted units take only a quarter of the damage dealt. And I'm song over because there is a bit of music over the constant death sound of our glorious king. The Glorious Charge. Oh, so good. Takes only a quarter of damage, and that includes revenge damage, by the way. So yeah, perfect ability for the King of Gondor, and one of the best heroes in the game. Period. Because of that alone. And that is basically all our heroes. We do have the 3 hunters here, which I'm going to go over when we talk about the power, because that's where we get them from. But first, before we go to powers, we have to talk about the structures. We have, in our base, the flour mills, which we've already talked about, is where we get our peasants and hay carts. And if they're drafted, they decrease the cost of our banner carriers. We have the stud farms, which we decrease the cost of our cavalry, not affecting heroic units for now. Then we have our archery range, where we get our 3 different range units, and fire arrows, and also where we get gambling. So he's a bit of a ranged tool as well if you get him on his horse. And in fact, before I do forget, because I do forget about some things, when gambling is on his horse, he loses his horn for the forceful burning shot, which is a heavy damage burning attack, which can probably kill a eagle on its own. Not confirmed. It's been a while since I last tested it. And that's not a lie, I have actually tested it against an eagle before. Yeah, spear throwers are at level 2. Pitch throwers level 1. Same with yeoman archers. You then get your stables, where you get lancers, the axe fighters, the archers, the horseman shields, and the royal guard of Rohan. You also can get, as I said earlier, armor from here if Theoden is cured of Grima's corruption. You then have the Rohan armory, where you get your battering rams, your onagers, all your basic upgrades, and also the workers and settlers tool. Now let's talk about these things here, the arsenal and the recruitment camp. These 3 recruitment buildings do not have a, like with Gondor, a tier 2 upgrade to get to tier 2 and an upgrade to get to tier 3. Not like Mordor, that levels up over time from recruiting more things. It's not like Isengard, that has a permanent upgrade after you get a certain level. These guys instead have a construct the arsenal to get your higher tier things. So your forged settlers tools, your horse shields, and your Rohan royal guards to get your spear throwers and your fire arrows. And the recruitment camp makes all your recruitment 50% faster. Note that the basic upgrades on buildings says 20% and then 30%. So that adds up to a 50% at tier 3 just by paying the tier 2, paying a tier 2 upgrade basically. But you can get these in either order. You don't have to do one first and then the other. You can do one and then the other in either order. Whether you want your upgrades more or your recruitment speed faster. Now I will note, this recruitment camp only works on on your recruitment, not your research. Note how this is research, and this is research, this is recruitment, and this is research as well, technically. This is recruitment, that is research. This is recruitment, this is research. So the recruitment camp that reduces recruitment speed only works on recruitment, not research. Do these whenever you want, it doesn't matter. Anyway, enough of that. We also have in our base, if we go to the outpost here, our little keeps here. Same as Gondor's keeps, you can reinforce them with an extra archer. Heroic statues give bonus damage and armor, and when they leave the statue's aura, they still have a little bit. They don't use to discount hero costs, not anymore. You can also research the build the well, which is the same as all wells. The heals in the aura, but also you can cast a reinforcement ability to regenerate entities. Now we come to the settlement buildings. We have our farm, which is just a rebranded flour mill, because it does the exact same thing. You have peasants, farmhands, hay carts, but you also get the man of defense ability that the main base buildings do not. That's also because they take more space. And then we have the stud farms. Oh, I took destroy. Oh, there we go. We've still got one stud farm. Now these stud farms, unlike the stud farms in the base, can also man defenses, even though they are exactly the same. These ones don't get an archer. These ones do. But yeah, they do the exact same thing. Discounting cavalry, not affecting heroic units. Next up are our outposts. Obviously, there's base outposts, but also the exile camp. We've already talked about pretty much everything it does. It researchers. Sorry, no. It recruits the exiles and royal vanguards. You can get a total of 3 of each, and the royal vanguards are 3 of upkeep command points. They have a extra leadership effect called the Exiles Further. Nearby allies gain 30% damage and 20% movement speed after leaving this vicinity. They will persist for 15 seconds. So same as heroic statues, but for damage and speed, which is better for cavalry because you want them running around faster. You also get to summon a scout for 60 seconds. So you got a bit more vision in this ability. The scout of the Rohirrim. The scout has a high vision range and reveals enemy heroes. It reveals anything hidden, but cannot attack. And it has 1600 health. So it can survive most things that try to attack it. And it is pretty fast. So, it's a nice little scout ability. Nice and free, I would like to mention. Free ability. Unlike with some factions, you have to pay for some vision. Or wait time. You can also recruit airmen from here, as I already mentioned, while it's still the exile camp. And when it's the king's camp, when you spend 1000 resources, you get some defenders, and you can recruit the captains of Rohan, Erkenbrand, Elfhelm, and Grimbold. But again, only one each of these, an infinite amount of these. And they are your elite troops. These 3.
Must defend our troops.
And this guy. Oh, this guy is part of that thing. Right. Oh, I completely forgot to talk about the assembly post. The assembly post is a well, but a well that can recruit Fairdred and also be armed as a rally point with defensive archers. Which makes sense because you're going to be running around constantly with cavalry or even with peasants. A nice like, little healing spot is a good thing to go to. And that is all our buildings if we don't include the siege buildings around the base. I forgot about that with Gondor, but Gondor is pretty self-explanatory. It's the same as Rohan. You get towers, you get possum gates, you get a siege unit, and you can also get banners, which gives enemy allied units nearby 50% damage and 50% armor for 300 resources. That is amazing. That is amazing damage and bonus armor. Oh, it's so good. I almost gave myself a headache doing that. I'm actually a bit lightheaded. I need to finish this up fast. Finally, we come to the powers. As you can see here, we got our defensive tree, our attack tree, and the glorious king we've already talked about. Freeze Edain from Saruman's spell, from Greenman's influence, etc., etc. Our tier 1 powers draft. We've already seen it. What it does, it drafts a farm or flour mill, so that peasants from inside will now be drafted with proper weapons and have more damage, more health, and can just do more. And also gives you a few defenders constantly. You then have the attack command, which gives you the bonus attack for a time, and also the extra draft for anything nearby. You then have, in the defensive tree, the Druidine Stone, which is another form of vision for us. But also, when you have enough of these stones, you can reduce the cost of the second half of this power, the Assault of the Druidine, which is any of these stones that has that glowing effect can be targeted to summon 2 units of Druidine on top of Gamburi Gun. It used to be something you can actually just summon as a temporary summon. Some archers that would just attack something along with Gamburi Gun. They're poison archers, by the way, so they do have poison damage. But they're not very strong, so be aware of that. But again, the more of these statues you have, the faster this second half comes back, so they can constantly protect your vision-making buildings. So very cool little thing there. I would say for the first few, keep them near your base, protect them, and then just have one go out every now and again because the ambush preparation is really good. When a timer has expired, Druidine can be summoned via the spellbook to this statue. And you can see now that both of those are active. We then have the Vanguard of Rohan, which summons even more cavalry. And these cavalry have a special thing where wherever they trample has less damage and armor for 30 seconds. So have these lead the charge, have them die in their charge, and then everything else charges a little bit stronger. Next up we have the Free Hunters, which summons Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli. And as you see, they start off at level 10. And the first ability is Choose the Leader. Currently Aragorn is the leader, but you can have 3 different leaders. You can have Legolas, you can have... You can have Gimli. That's weird, they should change that. Or you can have Aragorn. So how you prove that the leader is the little aura over them, under them. Aragorn has much less damage suffered from melee attacks. Legolas deals increased damage, and Gimli has melee attacks with an AoE. Depending on which one you choose, obviously, we'll decide which one is better. And each has an individual health pool. You see here, Legolas has 3,500 health, 300 melee damage, 200 range damage. Gimli does way more damage, has a bit more health than Legolas. 1,000 more health exactly. And Aragorn has a similar amount of health, but actually has more damage as well, but that's because it's not got AoE damage. He has it then Orc Hunt. You can then move faster for a short time. They have those little trails on the back of them to show they have that extra attack move speed even. Aragorn, as long as he is alive, can use the ability Elendil to make enemy units feared around him. Really cool. He then has the ability Slayer from Gimli. For 30 seconds, the attacks nearby knocks enemies away. And then you also have Arrowwind if this ability is not active. Legolas will just shoot a bunch of arrows constantly. And that's where the 200 damage comes in. That's the damage he deals. 200 damage per shot in the area. So all really good. If they die, you can rebuild them from the base for 1,500 as long as you have the power. Because obviously that's how you get the heroes in the first place. Next up is one of my favourite Rohan powers, the Highborn War Horses. Once this power is unlocked, all cavalry of Rohan will gain royally bred horses upon achieving level 2. As you can see here, these horses are all white, which means they are royally bred. But these horses here aren't royally bred because they're also level 1. Some of them have different coats and different effects upon them. But the point of them being white is just to prove that they are the best version of them that they can be, which gives them more health. They slow less when trampling, but also stables will now generate resources and cavalry of the heroic variety, aka these cavalry, can be discounted through the stud farms, which is really good. Next up, we have the alliance between men and elves, summons Haldir and Venus of Galathrim, which can switch between sword and bow, and Haldir himself has the ability to switch between sword and bow, has the ability Messenger of Hope. The target hero will gain attack damage and armor for 1 minute, but also the Elvish target order, which makes all of our elves in the area glow beautifully and deal more damage. So our Galathrim that already deal immense damage do even more damage, but the timer, obviously, you can see, is not very long. So use them as much as you can. Let them die as a distraction because they work really well in that regard. Then we have Cloudbreak, the only faction that still has a Cloudbreak in the game. The map-wide stun and breaking of the frame rate. Yep, that's what this does. Now we come to our tier 4 powers, and obviously Glorious King we've talked about. Gives Theoden health and gains triple experience for 60 seconds. So as soon as he comes back, he actually gets more experience gain, which is cool. And Heroes of Rohan gain damage, reload their abilities faster, and gain experience 30% faster. That is new, I think. I might be wrong on that, but I'm fairly certain that is new. That just basically gives them the exile effect, doubled on top of what they already get. That is cool. Next up we have the Last March of the Ents, which summons our Ents. We all know it, we all love it. It's 4 Ents on top of Treebeard and Quickbeam, who have the ability. Quickbeam is faster, deals increased damage against single target entities with his rocks. Treebeard makes all of the nearby Ents just deal more damage and have more range when they're shooting with their stones. He can throw stones. And I think you can actually have Merry on top of one of these two, but I'm not going to confirm that because I don't want to have to waste of time. But you can see it's also very fast closing off cooldown. But you can have these all carry stones. I'm sure Treebeard used to have an ability here in this version that you could summon some Ash Ents. That would work as well in this encounter. But you can see here we just have the Birch and Spruce Ents, Quickbeam, and Treebeard himself. You probably want to have them throw stones, since that's how they do the most damage from a good distance. And you normally want to destroy an enemy citadel so they can't use their own powers. Then after that, they just disappear back into the ether. And then finally, we have the military camp, which has the final unit I've not talked about yet. This building summons Rohirrim. And you can have those Rohirrim get fully upgraded from the get-go by getting the armory, the sergeant's tent, and the weapons store. So the sergeant tent gives them their captain, which is the same captain as... let's actually speed this up. Let's complete all of that. Sergeant's tent, the sergeants are the same as the captains here. They should actually say on there when we actually get them about that. And you can see all the different stuff here. This is meant to be reminiscent of the Dunharrow Rohan camp. And then there's our cavalry that is spawned. And then they have the ability Sergeants of Rohan, which, as you can see here, gives them grants bonus attack and defense for all nearby allied units. So really bloody good. To say it's meant to be a similar to the captain is a sergeant, even better. But they can also swap between those lancers and your bows. I didn't realise when I first ranked these a good few years ago now, I think, that they actually gave them this actual damage and armor buff, which is why I didn't put them so high up, because you had to have a tier 4 power to get them. But the fact they're free, they can get all these upgrades, have a leadership buff, and can swap between sword and bow, meaning they're not as weak in the charge as these Rohirrim archers here. These are the best archer unit in the game. The best range, the best cavalry archer unit in the game. Really, really bloody good. Because I'm fairly certain they don't lose anything in the charge with their bows out, because they are at base a cavalry unit, not a ranged cavalry unit. So their ranged damage, I think, might be pierce damage, but yeah, still pretty good. But yeah, really, really good overall. And as you can see, this is just constantly spawning like every like half a minute. So every minute you're getting 2 units for free. So bloody good. I can see this is what our horses normally look like. At level 2, they become pure white. And now we come to the overview. Rohan is the not the only aggressive good faction anymore, but they are the quintessential aggressive good faction. You just spam infantry with peasants. You then go eventually into spamming cavalry. Your heroes are really good at just constantly pushing forward, not giving up. This is Rohan's whole thing. Is just never giving up. They're proof that even peasants can be as strong as kings. And it shows when you get them strong enough and you work hard enough on them. But yeah, Rohan's cavalry is amazing. Their faction overall is really fun to play with. Has a few downsides, obviously. Every faction needs a few downsides. Of being just not having elite units that are easy to get, because you have to get your outpost for them. But other than that, they are just a really fun faction. And I recommend anyone that enjoys playing with cavalry to play Rohan. I don't care about if you prefer to play an easier faction. Learn Rohan. Because an easy faction is a good thing to get into, like with Gondor. To master Gondor does take a bit of effort, but they're still really easy to do no matter what you do. Rohan, getting Rohan to their top performance is basically just having Edain with Glorious Charge, just trampling and destroying everything. No hope against Rohan. And that is why most factions need pikemen, because Rohan exists. Their cavalry are not to be underestimated. Doesn't matter how cheap they are still cavalry that will beat your ass. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. Farewell.